Oh, what's up GameLeapers? The Jizz has returned, and first of all, welcome, and second of all, in this video you are going to know the 15 best top laners you have to play next patch. Now some of the big guns are copying a left-right combination from Markieta and Co in 11-12, but unlike Nate Robinson, they will rise up and still be powerhouses. So in this countdown, we have mages, bruisers and fighters, tanks, so you're going to get a great all-around champion pool that you could actually take into the near future. Now I'm going to get right into it here, and if you like the quick intro and want more of these, then let the Jizz know by liking the video. And starting us off, coming in at number 15 is Kayle. And Kayle, the champion, not the vegetable, hasn't really been mentioned that much recently, but she's actually low-key strong, and you've probably seen Nemesis been playing her in the mid lane on his stream. Well, in the top lane, she can work as well. Now, I would recommend picking Kayle into a safe pick. Maybe the enemy team is locked in a tank, so the laning phase isn't going to be as stressful and dangerous, so you can scale for free. But even in these dangerous matchups against Darius, against these bruisers and fighters who can make your life hell in the early game, if you can get your Nasus 2 spike without being too far behind, and then your Riftmaker spike, well, Kayle from level 11, and from level 16 of course onwards, is one of the scariest champions on the Rift. Even if you're 0-3, 0-4 on Kayle, you can still have a really big impact. The recent buffs that came in as well from 11-10, which increased your Flames AP ratio to 25%, and then increased your range in your passive as well from level 16 onwards, well, you can E people from afar, and your E is also going to be doing more damage, which is great of course. So Kayle comes in at number 15, guys, a pretty underrated pick at the moment. Now I just mentioned a bruiser, fighter, juggernaut type champion who can make Kayle's life hell, and this is Darius coming in at number 14, and I can't really make a top lane video without having Darius in it, can I? So even though Darius has been nerfed this season, and he isn't in that great of a spot, the reason he is on this list is because in lane, in that laning phase, you are still one of the strongest champions, and you have some of the best snowballing 1v9 potential on the Rift. And another reason why Darius is going to be so good, even if Riot nerfed him into the ground, is that his counters, well, you have to play pretty much perfectly against Darius to actually counter him. One misstep, Darius can pull you in, and you're dead. And once you do get your Stridebreaker and Steris Gauge combination, well, a bit like Kayle with Nasus 2 from Riftmaker, Stridebreaker and Steris Gauge Darius is just as scary. We all know about Stridebreaker, the dash range, the active that is going to slow the enemy champions and speed you up. It's just way too broken for an active, and gives Darius the stickiness he needs to pop off in teamfights and 1v5. Now, I thought I would mix it up with this next pick, guys, and coming in at number 13 is Singed. Now, Singed did get buffed last patch, so in 11-11, your E's cooldown is lower at later ranks, which is great, of course. I mean, it's not huge, but it is a buff, so of course it's nice. But still, that doesn't really explain why Singed is now one of the best top laners, right? Like, he's in this countdown, there's got to be a reason behind it. This is because people are going Conqueror Singed, and this is where the power really lies. And the main reason Conqueror is so good, guys, is because your Conqueror stacks actually go up off your poison. How crazy is that? So you don't even have to do anything. As long as someone's chasing you and you've got your Q going, you will be getting Conqueror stacks. The buff to Riftmaker recently as well has been really good because you get to those max stacks quicker. So in those short trades, even in those long trades, which are probably going to be common on Singed when you're running around and people are chasing you, this is just flat out better for you. So Singed comes in at number 13. Now ahead of Singed, another champion who we haven't really mentioned that much recently, well, coming in at number 12 is Aatrox, and the main reason Aatrox is here is because of the recent Gore Drinker buff, and we all know you're going to be healing more when you're using its active from now on, but also Steris Gauge, which got bug fixed earlier in the season so that the stacks actually now apply properly. Well, this is really important for champions who obviously build the gauge, and because you're now stacking its passive properly, couple this with Gore Drinker's sustain, you are so hard to bring down again. Now, it's not as OP as early season Aatrox, but it is pretty close. This is why Aatrox has to come in at number 12. And let me know, by the way, in the comments if any of you who versed these champions, these setups, and let me know how you got on. How frustrating was it to play against them? Now, coming in at number 11, another, well, maybe frustrating champion to play against in the top lane is Shen. And Shen has been good all season, and he's still going to be really good next patch. So if you want a tank who can actually duel it out in the top lane, Shen is definitely the go-to pick for you. Now, we all know about his trading potential, his Q, his W, which blocks auto attacks, his passive, his shield, his E, his taunt, which is also great for setting up ganks, and then his ultimate. And this ultimate, guys, is one of the reasons why some Shen players have been going Redemption and Mikael's Crucible in their build as well for their shield power, which means that when you ult onto a teammate, whether it's an AD carry later in a game, your mid laner as well, who might be caught out, guess what? That shield strength is going to be like half their health bar, and there's no way they die, so you get into the fight, you save them, and you turn that fight around. So Shen, very good laning phase, great setup. He's got pretty much everything you want in a top laner, and also brings a lot of utility utility later in a game as well. Now, as we get into the top 10, guys, I want to remind you of the GameLeap website, because when we upload 15 to 20 challenger videos a week, right, do you think we do it for a joke? No, we do it for our members, right? We care about you. So thousands of members who are signed up are getting exclusive access to these videos that talk about mastering champions, mastering roles, mastering micro, mastering macro, whatever it is in the game that you want to learn about, we have it on our site. So get signed up, links in the description and comment section. Okay, so coming in at number 10, like Shen, who has been good pretty much all season, despite Titanic Hydra getting nerfed recently, and this is Ergot. And for Ergot, guys, with Stride Breaker, and then you have the buff Black Cleaver, which has now been buffed, so it's giving you 30% armor reduction. When you throw in Titanic Hydra in there, even though it is actually nerfed, the big deal is the on-hit, and this is still in the game. And the on-hit, which gets transferred into your W, and even though your W's AD ratio was nerfed recently, the on-hit is where it's at. So as long as its on-hit is still in your W and your Titanic Hydra, Ergot is going to be on this list indefinitely, guys. Like, I can't take him off. This interaction is way too broken still, so Ergot comes in at number 10. Now, just ahead of Ergot, coming in at number 9 is a champion who most of you might not have seen that much of in the top lane, but for our Icarly players, well, top lane is actually a really good lane for you because our Icarly, generally speaking, is great into melee champions, which is what you're going to see in the top lane most of the time. And the main reason for this, guys, is because of your W. So when a Darius jumps onto you, when a Set jumps onto you, when anyone jumps onto you, you can just press W, you buy yourself time, and you waste the enemy champion's time and their kill pressure, of course. Then you can run out, you can E away, you can even go back in if you want to turn that fight around, if you get some Qs and passive procs off. It's actually a really good lane to play in. Now, also, in terms of summoner spells, people have recently been playing Ignite, Teleport Icarly into matchups you don't actually need your Flash. Now, Flash is definitely safer. So if you are new to Icarly, I'd recommend taking Flash. But if you are more experienced and you know what matchups you need to take Flash into, then taking Ignite is a great way of getting kills early game. And when level 6 comes around, which, I mean, you could even argue Icarly is the best post level 6 champion in the game, well, this is when Ignite really comes into it because you have so much kill pressure and it's very easy to start a snowball. We've also got the Sorcerer Shoes, the Rocket Belt combination, the Magic Penetration. You could even go Rift Maker, Demonic Embrace if you're against a tankier composition, a bit more bruisery. So Icarly, honestly, you might even put her higher on this list, but she is coming in at number 9, so respectable nonetheless. Now, beating Icarly, guys, to the number 8 spot is Clad, and same reasons as why Aatrox is good, right? Because of the new Gore Drinker, which, yeah, is going to heal you for more when you use this active, but you can also go Sunflower Aegis, which I kind of like for Clad. There's a bit of build diversity in here. So if you're in a composition, right, if your team has all the damage in the world, like you don't need to go Gore Drinker, you don't need to go whatever else after that, you can go for a more tankier setup with Sunflower Aegis, well, you can actually do so. And then on the other side of it, if you don't have a team with a lot of damage, say you have a tank jungler and you need some sort of damage in the top lane, well, then you can go Gore Drinker, you can go Titanic Hydra, you can even go Black Cleaver in there if you want that armor reduction. So Clad comes in at number 8, guys. The diversity, the carry potential, it's all still there. Now, beating Clad to the number 7 spot is another Gore Drinker abuser, and this is Lee Sin. But Lee Sin, a bit more than Clad, abuses Black Cleaver. And as we all know, Black Cleaver got buffed recently, but it's really great for Lee Sin in particular because for Lee Sin, guys, getting Conqueror stacks and Black Cleaver stacks is really easy because of the attack speed you get from your passive. So when you use one of your basic abilities in a 1v1, because your auto attacks have attack speed, you get those Conqueror stacks quicker, you get those Black Cleaver stacks quicker, and it makes your 1v1 super powerful. A bit like Shen as well, you have amazing setup for your team, for your jungler who's coming to gank you because of your ultimate. Even your E slow is really helpful as well. So Lee Sin has to be on this countdown, guys, and he's coming in at number 7 this time around. Now, ahead of Lee Sin, coming in at number 6 is Nasus. And Nasus this patch is going to get nerfed. So in 11-12, your passive's lifesteal is not going to be as much. Now, why is this important? Well, of course, in the laning phase, you're not going to have as much lifesteal, right? So you're not going to have as much sustain. But the kicker here, guys, is the fact that Divine Sunderer is now giving you more lifesteal, more sustain from the Spellblade passive. So I'm not sure if this was a nerf to balance Nasus out because of the Sunderer buff. It probably was, but the fact of the matter is, guys, that Nasus is still going to be very powerful indeed. Yes, his early game is pretty weak, but his Sunderer spy, like, you've got to be careful about running into a Nasus. When level 9 comes around and you've got 5 points in your queue and your Divine Sunderer is almost there or fully built, you can go toe-to-toe with pretty much anyone. We've also got to keep in mind that Frozen Heart got buffed in last patch to an 11-11. So in the scheme of things, in terms of items and in terms of actual champions, Susan is still right at the top of the pile in terms of top lane champions. Now, let's say you don't want to play a tank. You don't want to play a team fighting oriented champion, maybe like Shen. Well, what about a Grand Duelist? Someone who is very hard to beat in 1v1s. So Fiora then. And Fiora by default, guys, even if her items were bad, is still in a really good spot. Really, because when Riot buffed her in 11-4, so your passive, so your vitals are going to be doing more damage based on the target's maximum HP, and your bonus AD ratio also went up in your vitals for each 100 bonus AD you actually had. So this means that when tank champions, you might see a lot of this, especially in lower elos with the new Warmogs coming in, when they have so much HP later in a game, even bruisers and juggernauts like Darius who build a lot of HP as part of their kit. This means that you're going to be chunking them for more when you're using your vitals, and I hate to mention it again, but when you do throw in the Cold Drinker buff recently, and then you might have Ravenous Hydra, Darius Gauge, Death Stance, God knows what else, like there are very few champions who can actually go against you. Now you can get cucked in teamfights because in terms of damage, Fiora is largely about single target damage. So really, you want to be split pushing, getting to these 3-4 items, and carrying your team to victory. Now, we haven't had an AP champion for a while, and let's say that you want to play an AP champion unlike Icarly and Kayle, who's actually strong in the early game. Well, I've got the champion. What about Rumble, the Junkyard Yordle? And you guys surely know by now why Rumble is good, right? It's because of the 50% attack speed that's now in your passive. And what this really means, guys, yes, okay, you're going to be dealing damage when you're overheating, but that's kind of the thing. Like back in the day when Rumble overheated, this was the big green light you needed. It's like you see a Rumble overheating, he can't use his abilities, I'm going to jump on him. And you win that trade, you back out, and you just rinse and repeat. But now, because when Rumble overheats, he gets attack speed, he actually ends up doing more damage if you jump onto him overheating than he does normally. So now he really only has one weak point, and that is that he can get ganked very easily. But still, the early game pressure, the early game priority, this means that you're going to get to your Sorcerer's Shoes, your Rocket Belt Spike pretty much free of charge, and you give your jungler space to get Scuttle Crab, you can rotate down, and in lower elos when these fights do break out, because you're such a strong early game champion, you can actually just win the game off these fights alone. Like 1 kill, 1 assist, it's GG. And yeah, your damage is still ridiculously high. Now, as we get into the top 3 champions, guys, I want you, if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future uploads. And coming in at number 3, the champion that I think is still underrated and not talked about enough is Nocturne. Like so many people talk about Darius, they talk about Set, they might talk about Wukong and Camille, but why is no one talking about Nocturne? The Strybreaker, the Darius Gauge, the Guardian's Angel, the Sustain, the Wave Clear, the map pressure, the priority, the gank setup. It's even hard to kill Nocturne as well because of your W and your E, like you can just E the enemy jungler, they get feared, and that gank dissipates. And when level 6 comes around as well, your map pressure, like you don't just have to run to your top lane, like once you've won top lane, go around the map. Impress that lead you have from the top lane on everyone else. This is how you win games, and Nocturne, honestly, just because of his half global ultimate, I guess you'd call it, is for sure a great carry pick. So Nocturne comes in at number 3. So who is the runner-up, guys, to the best top lane champion in 11-12? Well, this champion is getting nerfed next patch, and this is Wukong. So your Q's bonus AD ratio is down. So the more AD you get from items, the less your Q is going to do. And on top of that, your AD per level is down as well to 3.5 from 4. So this means you're getting 9 less AD at level 18. So a bit of a hit to your mid and late game here. But the laning phase is where it is at for Wukong. Your passive, which gives you so much tankiness. Your Q's range. Your W, which gives you the survivability and a dash as well if you need a gap close to fleeing enemy champions. Your E, which gives you attack speed and a dash, of course. So you can easily stack Conqueror. You can easily engage onto the enemy champion. And you have 2 ultimates. Not to mention the Divine Sunderer buff, the Black Cleaver buff. So despite getting nerfed, Wukong has a heck of a lot going for him. And I'm calling it now, guys. Wukong is probably going to get gutted in the next few patches or so. So if you want free LP, if you want to abuse the Monkey King as much as possible, now is the time to do it. So Wukong comes in at number 2 on the countdown. Now, beating Wukong to the number 1 spot, I don't think this champion has been at number 1 on this countdown ever. So welcome Riven to the number 1 spot, and Riven is the best top laner in 11-12. With Wukong nerfed, he can't really be number 1. With Camille not really abusing Divine Sunder as much as, we all thought she would. With Nasus nerfed, Riven is just the nuts. Your 2 core items, Gore Drinker and Black Cleaver, are obviously in a great state. And after that, you still have so many items you can choose from, right? You've got Darius Gauge, you've got Death Stance, you've got Guardian's Angel, even Serilda's Grudge can be built against armor-heavy teams. And for Riven, generally speaking, a bit like Fiora, you're in a really good state as well. So your E got buffed earlier in this season, so it's now 2 seconds lower in terms of its cooldown, which means later in a game, when you've got Gore Drinker's passive going off, you will be Eing every 3 seconds. So a shield, which is based off your AD, of course, which is going to be that big, getting that 3 seconds, like, are you serious? So I said Fiora might be the grand duelist, but Riven honestly really takes the crown. So those are the best 15 top laners, guys, for 11-12. Let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree, if you think another champion should be on here, if you think Riven should be number 1, let me know down below. Thanks so much for watching, and until tomorrow's video, this has been the Jizz. Peace.